So let's talk about change. We have all weathered changes in our lives and survived. We've gone from childhood to adulthood. Perhaps we've changed jobs over the years, or locations, or homes, or relationships. We know that change is a constant. We see the same ebb and flow in nature. We know that it is part of life. An integral part of life is change. And yet we label it some good and some not good. So how can we tell if change is good or bad? It's very simple. If we like it, it's good. If we don't like it, it's bad. We like change when we decide when and how and what it's going to look like. So say, for example, we're going to change a location. We decide when that's going to happen. We have time to do the research about different neighborhoods or areas we might want to live in. We look at homes or apartments. We decide when we have time to organize ourselves and pack. So when change happens this way, it's good. It has a nice flow to it. It's pleasant. We enjoy it. And the ones we don't like? Well, unexpected, unplanned, and not of our choice. So we find ourselves right now in the middle of one of those big changes, don't we? That was unexpected and unplanned. And yet, here we are. So how can we meet this change? How do we live today not knowing what tomorrow is going to look like? Not knowing what next month or even next year might bring to us. We are in a time of transition. We are moving into new territory where the old maps that we may have used in the past are no longer valid. They no longer apply. No one has experienced this before, what we are living through right now. We can't go back and see how the last time this happened, how people handled it, what the outcomes were, how people managed. When we're faced with something new that we didn't choose, often our tendency is to get through it quickly, right? Even with blinders on, like, let's just get through this and get to the other side. But if we try to push through it with blinders on, we lose so much of the potential for spiritual growth. And to me, that's why we're here. This is a time for accelerated learning and growth. So let's pay attention to what's transpiring around us and, more importantly, really within us, so that we can learn and grow through this very unique time we are in right now. When we understand the process of change, we can move with it, we can cooperate with it, and really even enjoy it. So back to the question, how do we meet this change? How do we move through these uncharted waters? Well, if we are wise, we remember to start with our spiritual principles. We remember that we do not navigate these waters alone. We are not without resources, inner resources. We are spiritual beings that have the capacity to access and draw from everything that we could possibly need: clarity, wisdom, strength, faith, imagination. All of these things are available to us. We are not without resources. Every change, planned or not, is an opportunity for spiritual transformation. If we can embrace it, accept it, and especially if we can cooperate with it. So let's step back and drop the label of good or bad, and let's look at the process, the phases of change. Although we might think that the first step in change is a new beginning, just pause for a moment and think about that. Anytime you've made a change in your life, it actually starts with an ending. Leaving a childhood, leaving our childhood, leaving our neighborhood, leaving a job. It starts with an ending. We think that that an ending would lead to a new beginning. We think that perhaps it's a two-step process. But there's a very important third stage, an in-between stage, a stage that occurs after we have left something and before we arrive at the new, whatever it is, the new situation, the new circumstance. You may remember this. We just went through it. We just experienced Lent, the season of letting go, right? Of endings. And then we had Easter, representing resurrection, a new beginning. But what was in between there? It didn't just jump from one to the other. There was the tomb experience, the time when we're in darkness, when we're quiet, when we're reflective. That time, that in-between time of really not knowing, having left the old, not yet arrived in the new. So as we explore this new territory together, we're going to look at all three phases, all three parts of the process of change. And remember, it doesn't happen like turning the page of a book. I mentioned this last time. Some of the letting go is brought into the in-between stage. Some of the ending is brought into the in-between stage. Some of the in-between stage, the not knowing stage, is always brought into the new beginning stage. So there's lots of overlap there.